Oh, hi Brendan. What's up?
Oh, I was just looking over your notes here for episode 8, and, I see you're planning to do a third-degree burn gag. You want to tell me what that's all about?
Well, you know, I was just gonna put some makeup on and try to make it look like I had a third-degree burn.
That's your idea of a gag? Making fun of people who have a third-degree burn? You know what happens to people who have third-degree burns?
I don't know. They get their photos on the cover of gore grind albums?
There's nothing funny here. Besides having to endure the agonizing pain and the agony of the healing process, third-degree burn victims have to go through life with a kind of a disfigurement, a stigma. So I don't see that there's anything funny in that. That is not PC.
Okay, I'll think of something else.
No, you can just introduce the video. Unbelievable guy.
The, new producer guy, Brendan. Well, he didn't have to give me the third degree now, did he? Anyway, cue the music. Okay, so summer vacation is finally over. Kids are back at school. I actually have time to sit down at my desk and revive the series here. So, Music is a Journey. This is episode 8. And I actually had in mind that I would try to do another episode possibly during the months of July and August. July was super busy for me. I had no time. And then August, of course, the kids are home. But I thought, well, I can go out somewhere. But it was really a stinking hot summer. The city I live in here, we broke the national record for heat. We were up to 41.1 degrees one day. And typically it was in the high 30s. So in this room here where I'm doing all my stuff, I have no air conditioning. So even staying up late at night to do something, I was just soaked in sweat by the time I went downstairs to take a shower. And this little guy here was showing in this room, typically it was 32, 33 degrees and 82% humidity. Even right now it's showing about 27 degrees and 80% humidity. So as it is now, I can already feel the sweat glands are working. But anyway, we're back. And in episode 7 at the end, I promised we would be doing third degree and cell 15 in the next episode. However, I realized my episodes are getting a little bit long, so I thought I would shorten it down a little bit and keep cell 15 for episode 9. And so today we're going to talk about third degree, but before that, I want to introduce this album here. Alright, this is called Uncle! With an exclamation mark and capital letters. And it's by a band called Pugs and Crows. Have you ever heard of Pugs and Crows? The only reason why I heard about them previously is because my good friend from my elementary school days, a boy who grew up in the same neighborhood as me 2 streets away, and we often hung out together, Chris Jestrin, who is an award-winning pianist, but who can also play drums, bass, I think he does trumpet too, and he's also a producer. And he produced their last album. I think it was called Pictures, or Photographs, sorry. And anyway, that was 2013, and it won a Juno Award for Best Instrumental. Now, if you don't know what a Juno Award is, these are the Canadian Music Awards. In the US, they have the Grammys. Canada, we have the Junos. And they won an award for Best Instrumental Album. So here, 2018, 2018, however you want to say it, they have this new album, and it is actually not released yet. According to the website, it should be out on September 27th. So I actually got a little advance copy here. And I wasn't really sure what to think because they are a jazz band, and I do love to hear jazz when it's mixed into progressive rock or when it's incorporated into some progressive metal or other types of metal. But as far as straightforward, pure jazz goes, it's never totally gripped me. But what Pugs and Crows have done here is they've gone and made a vocal album. This means they've got... okay, well, let's find out who this is. This is Marine Patinode, if I've got it correctly. I really do butcher people's names, so I apologize if I did that again. However, they've invited her to be the vocalist on this album, and she has done a fantastic job. It's hard to say who she reminds me of. At times, it's like Sarah McLachlan, but not really. It's like Shay Amy, I think it was, who did some albums with Devin Townsend. But again, it's not quite like her, and it's like some other singers I've heard, but still it's her own individual style. And she has a great voice because it has this perfect balance between a kind of lounge jazz feel, but that so easily works into, I don't want to say pop, but this kind of music, which is not really jazz and it's not really pop. In fact, my impression while listening to this again last night is that I'm hearing some Sarah McLachlan, I'm hearing some Katie Lang, but at times there's other stuff, like there's a hint of Spirit of the West, there's one track that really reminds me of Matthew Good, there might be a bit of Tori Amos in there as well. There's such a variety of different band sounds that all seem to come together here in a way that makes Pugs and Crows have their own unique sound, but it kind of like built upon the shoulders of giants. And I quite expect Pugs and Crows are going to be giants themselves, because what they've done here totally blew me away. I was completely not expecting this. So, I want to tell you, as I always do, I want to tell you about some of the songs here. This album opens with a very short instrumental intro called One for Big Light intro, and closes with One for Big Light outro, which is actually a little over 3 minutes long, and a very beautiful instrumental with guitar and piano and so on. It's nice. In the middle we have 6 tracks, and the first 3, just even the first 2, really caught me off guard. I didn't know what to expect, and this is a jazz band, but they use like violins in a really interesting way. You get these almost like squeaks and weird sounds that just really go well with the atmosphere of the music. Not my circus, not my monkeys. I'm gonna play a clip from this because right off the bat we're looking at a song that I didn't expect at all. I didn't expect there was a band out there making music like this. So let's just listen to about 30 seconds from Not My Circus, Not My Monkeys. Okay, then things kind of soften down a little bit for the beginning of the next track, Dear Downer. This is track 3, and it has this really haunting, eerie kind of beginning, and sounds like a really melancholy piece, Dear Downer, right? But I mean, it picks up, and once again the music becomes really interesting. And again, totally unexpected. So I'd like to play just a short clip from this as well. And I have to put in here that these songs, I can play you a 30-second clip, but as we heard with Band of Rain previously, if you have a 7-minute track that goes through different moods and motions, 30 seconds is not going to tell you what the track really sounds like. It's just going to give you an idea of one part of it. So keep that in mind. Dear Downer. So by the time Not My Circus, Not My Monkeys and Dear Downer were done, I was already totally hooked on this album. I was already sending Chris messages saying what an incredible album I thought this was. And I was ready to just say, okay, mind blown, we can stop here. And then they come out with this next track, Postcards from Hospital Beds. Just listen to the beginning of this track. So what was I to do? And these are 3 songs, consecutive songs, each one of them quite different and with their own style and atmosphere and flavor, and each one of them so incredibly put together. This band, okay, gotta check here. We have basically 5 main members: Meredith Bates, violin, viola; Kat Torren, piano and vibes; Cole Schmidt, upside down guitars. That's a good description for what I'm hearing here. Russell Scholberg, electric and acoustic bass; Ben Brown, drums and percussion; Marine Patinot is doing vocals, and then Chris Gestrin is in here with Roland System 100 Moog, Micro Moog, Retro Rhythm Loops, Roland EP10 accordion, Mini Moog, additional string arrangement, and Mike Schmidt as a second drummer, and Tony Wilson guitar, chromatic harmonica, string arrangements, plus a whole list of people in strings, plus additional vocals. Okay. I mean, what you've heard so far, right? And I'm just saying, these 3 tracks here, that was enough for me. I was ready to just take them to bed and cuddle up with them and say, I'll listen to the rest of the album the next day. Now, the next 3 tracks are all a little bit slower, basically, compared to the pace we've heard in the first 3. But again, we get such an experimentation, I might want to say, but very creatively done with how the sound is put together. In the Dollhouse, which is track number 6, has some surprising changes in it. Wind Up Flying, sorry, that would be the 5th track. When it first started, I thought, oh, this is like really early 70s Chilliwack. Sounds very experimental. And then suddenly it changed. It was like, oh, this is more like Cowboy Junkies. And then, but it sounds a little bit like Sarah McLachlan meets Cowboy Junkies. Okay, anyway, I've let you hear those first 3 tracks. If you want to find out more about Pugs and Crows, check out Chris Gestrin's Bandcamp page. Probably you can also find Pugs and Crows are out there as an award-winning band. They're going to be out there. This album should be out September 27th. If you've liked what you heard, I do recommend checking them out more. I'm really looking forward to hearing what else they're going to do from here on in. Okay, and Chris, Pugs and Crows, thank you for this. Who are 3rd Degree? Alright, so in January 2016, as I always do in January, I checked out the top 100 albums of 2015. I always check out the previous year's top 100 on Prog Archives. And one band that caught my attention, they were up in, I think, 3rd place or something, was a band called 3rd Degree. And they had this album here. Woo, everybody slide down. Ones and Zeros Vol.1. Okay, so what were they like? I gave a quick listen. I heard some vocal harmonies I liked. I heard some music I liked. So, okay, fine. Let's get the album. I got it. I thought it was brilliant. We are going to talk about it more later. I loved the album. I wrote a review. And shortly after that, bass player, vocals, backing vocals, keyboard player, even songwriter, does many things in the band. Robert James Pashman sent me a message and said thanks for the review, and after that we got to talking about the band a little bit, and so I said, well, it's a little bit expensive to get a hold of your albums, so we cut a deal and I managed to order 3 more! Hooray! There they are. Okay, so now I want to tell you a little bit about 3rd Degree. In fact, the rest of today's video is going to be about 3rd Degree. 3rd Degree formed in 1990 with Robert James Pashman and Rob Durham on drums. And the motive of the band, their concept was to create interesting and engaging music that mixes accessible melodies with catchy hooks with the intelligence and complexity of progressive rock. And I tell you now that I think that's what they have managed to do throughout their entire career. Because when I first heard their other albums, I felt there was this kind of alternative rock, college radio type music that had intelligence and cynicism, which goes really well with, I think, college radio rock, doesn't it? Sarcasm as well. Plus very catchy melodies, very good songs, basically within the 4 or 5 minute range. But at the same time, there was this complexity in the music. There was this layering of instruments, or sometimes going really simple in order to build into something more. And that makes their music really accessible, because it's this wonderful, it's like crossover, mixing alternative popular music, alternative rock, with progressive rock, which is exactly what they said they wanted to do. Bravo, they've done it. Okay, so their first album was a cassette-only album, The World We Live In, and at that time, Robert was the lead vocalist. And after that, oh, I have a picture. Yes, I stole a picture from Robert from his Facebook page. Here it is. Okay. The World We Live In, cassette-only release. It is now available as a download from their Bandcamp page, and I think it's also available on CD too, so hurrah. I followed along from the second album, and this is where the band really got going. They brought in vocalist George Dobbs, who is also a principal songwriter, and what I really like about his writing style, it does have this cynical, sarcastic feel to it, but he's also really good at wordplay, and it's something I really like in bands like Bare Naked Ladies, Sloan, Spirit of the West. So I really enjoy listening to their lyrics in these songs here. Now, they also brought in, before this was recorded, they brought in Patrick Cleach on guitars, and so that basically set them up. George Dobbs lead vocals, Patrick Cleach guitars, backing vocals, Robert James Pashman bass, keyboards, backing vocals, Rob Durham drums, percussion, backing vocals. And this is really a great album to set them off on their course, because it does have these catchy type songs, it has these engaging lyrics, and it does have that complexity of progressive rock. And two tracks that really stand out is track 8, Black Orchid, which is a beautiful instrumental based on acoustic guitar with some other instruments. And then their long track, Misfortune on Main Street, which is something like 11 minutes long, and I think it's their second longest track in their catalog, which of course goes through different parts, which is also fantastic. However, I want to mention Human Interest Story, the title track. As you can see from the album cover, this is supposed to be one of those trashy talk shows like Jerry Springer, where people tell their stupid stories and people get angry and everybody sounds really dumb. You can hear in one part there's like voices that are supposed to be samples of this kind of show, and you hear like, oh, I can't help it, women just fall for me. Well, you've got a lot to learn about women. Yeah, you ain't one. Sounds really dumb. But that's what they're talking about, these trashy talk shows where people air their filthy laundry. The rest of the album has many other themes. There's a beautiful one called Locked Inside with female guest vocals, which is lovely. And there's so many tracks I would like to feature, but I'm going to do a little bit from Be There, and as well the last track, which is actually not listed on here, must be a hidden track, but it's called Done It Again, which is one of those interesting humorous tracks. So let's just listen to 2 tracks from Human Interest Story, 13-second clips. Here we go. Okay, so things did not go as well for the band as they had hoped, and in 1997 they decided to break up and leave it for a while, and everybody went off and did their own things. We had some members collaborating on projects, some members doing solo projects, some members working with other people. But in 2005, Robert James Pashman, bass player, backing vocals and all that, he put together a compilation of basement recordings on CD, and then he also made a compilation DVD of their live performances. And in 2006, some of the members got together and started talking about reviving the band, and then in 2007 they decided we are going to get the band going again, and by 2008 they released their third album, and this is Narrowcaster. Now, my opinion of Narrowcaster is, let's use the analogy of coloring with colored pencils, pencil crayons. For Human Interest Story, they got a pack of 12 colors, and they used them very creatively. Then, when they got together again, they thought, well, let's, I don't know if they did think this or not, but it was, my feeling is they said, let's scale back a bit, let's take these kind of leftover tracks, write some new ones, and let's put them together simply, but very nicely. And so it's like they got a pack of 8 colors and then colored very well with those 8 colors. However, it was soon quite clear that a band of this caliber is not happy to just color with 8 colors. So from there on, I feel their color base has expanded, and we're going to talk about that more with the rest of the albums. But first, I want to feature 2 tracks from Narrowcaster. The first one, Apophenia, is actually one of my favorite 3rd Degree songs. And what was the other one now? Free For All is actually a surprisingly heavy song, and the proverbial banana peel also has some surprisingly heavy bits, but a lot of this album is also a bit lighter. So I think it's The Last Gasp I also want to feature on here, the final track. So let's listen to a little bit of Apophenia and The Last Gasp. Okay, I'm just consulting my notes here that I made on my phone the other day. This is for their 3rd album, The Long Division, which came out in 2012. And they put this album together around the American election time. And so that's what the theme is on the album cover here, the division in the US public. And that's what The Long Division is about. And they mention different types of people, for example, like the tree-hugging, environmentalists who maybe want to protect the natural side of the country, but of course are in that way also in supportive of the economy. And then you have the gun-toting, flag-waving type people. Anyway, it's in the lyrics there, and it's a very cool song. It's in the first track called You're Fooling Yourselves, and so let's just play a little bit of that one now, because this is also one of my favorite 3rd Degree tracks. Everybody knows I love the tree hugging America, bashing peace names, urban elitists reinventing what's good and pure, media whores settling on scores, starting class wars. You're fooling yourselves. That was your time. This is our time now. Okay, there's one thing to mention about 3rd Degree, which I should have said with Narrowcaster. Narrowcaster actually caught the attention of the Dutch progressive rock page, which noticed them. And then for this album here, they got attention again, and perhaps much more, because what I'm saying about colors, they really began to expand what they were doing with their music and coming not only back to the level of this album here, but I think they superseded it on this one. And as I was looking over the songs the other day and trying to think which ones to feature parts of, I found practically the whole album is really representative of what these guys can do. Now there's some other great ones here. I mean, the Socioeconomic Petri Dish is really cool. Incoherent Ramblings. They do this wonderful stuff where they will mix some more aggressive parts, some more complex parts, and kind of ease back into almost a lounge type feel. They will do the harmony vocals, and then of course they have these interesting, engaging lyrics. I think I made a note about some lyrics. I'm just going to recheck my phone. Okay, so here on track 7, Televised, they actually had this one line in the song that says, "You're the cannon fodder of checkout lies." Basically, this whole album is a theme about the election at the time. And actually, I noticed there is, if you look carefully, a kind of American flag on the back too. Yeah, a very intelligent band, very intelligent music, and there is every reason why this album ended up in the Prog Archive's Top 100 of 2012.
Hawking out our souls. Greed is the word we follow. We're all prostitutes, hawking out our souls. Greed